I have a question. I have been studying programming for a while. At college, I have taken computer science courses which taught the basics of Java, JavaScript, C, and PHP. I have also taken an algorithms class. I have sort of built a practice PHP site. Oh, this is a long question. Okay, I'm going to skip here. I want to learn how to update a table on a page without refreshing the whole page. Ajax. Look at Ajax. I did some research and said I would need to use Ajax, and the only easy way to use Ajax is with jQuery, as far as I know. There's other ways as well, but yeah, just start with jQuery for now. I also get confused trying to read. Some people say use, whatever, React or something, or Angular, but start with the basics. I also get confused trying to read documentation of programming languages. Is that normal? Yeah, it's very normal. You have to learn to speak nerd and read nerd. In time, you'll get that. It's not a problem. Again, the reason you have trouble with that documentation, sometimes the documentation just sucks. And sometimes it's because you still need to develop, there's some holes in your knowledge in terms of the fundamentals. That's why I stress the fundamentals. Number 3, I've been looking at beginners videos, did well in the introduction classes at college. I can do easy programming problems. I want to create things on my own, but I get writer's block at times and have to look up online and see how it's done. Is that a bad thing? No, that's very normal. It's very normal. Software development is all about constantly learning new things, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Somebody's learning Node and he's concerned because his friends say Node has no future in 2018. I don't believe that at all. Don't worry about it. Again, if you learn Node and you find for some weird reason in 2018 or 2050 or 2010 or not 2010, whatever, a couple of years later, there's no jobs. You know Node, you know JavaScript, you know the process of building those type of apps. You could do it. You could jump over to do it in Java pretty easily. Do it in Python pretty easily. Do it in PHP pretty easily. You can't think I'm a Java programmer, Node programmer. You can't think of yourself, I'm a PHP Laravel programmer. No, you got to think of yourself as a software developer. You're a programmer. It doesn't matter what language. In my career, I have written commercial code in 9 languages. I just chose the best language for the job, as is normal. Hi, Stef. I decided to go for Android Dev. I am working through the Android textbook. Do you have any advice to increase future earning potential for Android Dev? Thanks in advance. Learn your stuff well. Start doing some projects as quickly as you can for other people and for yourself. Get them out there, put them out there on your portfolio, and just continue to keep up to date with the latest stuff. I think Kotlin, there might be an economic advantage with Kotlin because apparently you can write the code much more quickly. You can write your Android apps much more quickly than just with Java. So you may want to take a look at that. Pay attention to market forces in your area, see who's working with Android, who's not, so you understand that. And I think the last point of advice I'd like to give people, learn to develop good communication skills, verbal and written. That's going to take you a long way in your career as a developer, being able to actually communicate with people. What advice would you give a developer who wants to transition to outsourcing because the workload has become too much? Outsource what you don't like to do, or outsource what you are not good at. Start reaching out in advance, start getting to meet people, start making connections, and just when you bring in somebody, make sure, ask them a bunch of questions that you figure they should know the answers to. See what kind of questions they ask you. Make sure you get along with them. They have to be good-natured persons. I'd rather hire somebody who is a pretty good programmer but is easy to get along with than a genius who's a jerk. Genius jerks, no good. And just slowly bring them in. Start them off with simple little tasks, see how they work, see how they do, and take it from there. You should be time tracking everything that you do in your freelance work so you're able to judge how long it takes to do a particular job much more accurately. When you use time tracking properly, like I have the time tracking spreadsheet in my course, not to plug it, but anyway, one of the points of the time tracking spreadsheet is so that it helps you to really get a grasp of how long it takes to do a particular job. This is important for you as somebody may be bidding on contracts, but it's also important because if you're hiring people, you got to be able to judge how long it's going to take them to do things. Typically, you underestimate. Typically, people underestimate, and I'm guilty of that too. I would like to make simple 2D Android games for kids one day. That's my niche I want to be. But I decided to start with programming the traditional way, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Is web development going to be a good foundation for my later Android game devs? Yes, why not? It's programming is programming. You're going to actually, after you do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you're probably going to find Android development easier because you got a controlled environment. And I say that with a grain of salt, very lightly. But again, programming is programming. If you know JavaScript and CSS and HTML, for you to be able to jump into Android development with Java or Kotlin, it will not be very difficult. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily call HTML, CSS, JavaScript traditional programming in Android development. Not, I guess so. It's older. It's much older, so I suppose so. Anyway, yeah, it all contributes. The more you learn, the more you earn. That's think about that. You don't waste time learning anything. Please talk about hosting options. Which should we buy for our clients? Also, a little bit of domains, if you don't mind. Hosting options. Well, for most websites, you just need basic hosting. You don't have to get anything fancy. For your clients, same thing. Most of the time, they just need basic hosting, especially if you're just doing simple websites and so on. Now, if you're using Python or something, you're going to have to get Python support hosting. But again, that's easy. The question you should look at is whether you should get cloud-based hosting or more traditional hosting, shared hosting. You can start with shared for now. You just look it up anywhere. Just type in shared hosting, check out reviews and so on. And what you do is, my trick is call the tech support line of the hosting companies. You call the tech support line, see if they answer. Once you progress a little bit and you want a little bit more control, you might want to look at some cloud hosting solutions. It's a big subject, In terms of domain names, simpler the better. I mean, not too long, easy to spell, easy to remember. That's why I have studioweb.com. Of course, it's hard to get names like that. I registered that in 1998. killersites.com. Simple to remember, simple to spell. Again, that's an old domain name that was registered in 1996. So, it is simple is better. Does the domain name have to be the same name as your company? No, but simple is better. Next question. Hi, thanks for the great videos. What do you think of Prisma with regard to GraphQL? Prisma can be self-hosted and you just need to declare GraphQL schema in order to create tables in PSQL. I haven't used it, so I don't have a comment. Just look at the use case just to make sure that the database long-term will satisfy your app's requirements. That's all. Stefan, can you please tell me how to deal first week of a job? Because I don't know how to handle it professionally as a developer without any experience in professional life. I work well as a freelancer and did 3 web projects. How do you deal with a boss at work? Please answer me because I'm about to graduate and things really freak me out. Well, first of all, the fact that you guys come freelancing work, that means don't worry, you could always go back to freelancing and build that up and make a lot more money than you could actually working for somebody. But if you prefer working for somebody, which some people like that, they like that idea, just communicate well. That's the number one thing I tell people. Not the number one thing, but it's one of the top things you got to learn as a developer is you got to learn to communicate. Communication is huge, written, verbal. Be respectful. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but don't ask silly, stupid questions, stuff that you can look up on Google, like tech questions and stuff. But if it's questions about how they operate or something specific to a piece of software they may be using that's not publicly available, then do that. But again, don't pester, but communicate well. And when you do communicate, keep it short and to the point. Especially people in leadership positions don't have time to read paragraphs and paragraphs. Next question, what is the best approach to freelancing CMS projects, WordPress, Drupal, or create your own CMS? And don't create your own CMS. If you want to get into CMS-based freelancing, WordPress is where all the money is at. WordPress is this funny thing where designer types is kind of scared of touching WordPress because of the theming engine and the plugins and stuff. And then you got developer types who don't want to touch WordPress because they just don't like it. So there's this huge opportunity out there for WordPress devs. So it's something to consider. So I would just go with WordPress. Oh, if there's jobs in Drupal, take that too. Or whatever CMS. But build your own from scratch? No. There's too big of a community and there's too many options with WordPress. Not saying it's perfect, that's for sure. But that's one of its opportunities. The fact that it isn't perfect, in fact, that WordPress 5 is coming out soon and there could be a huge amount of work generated as a result of that major upgrade, that's where I would go.